All right, guys. Thank you again for tuning in live on Facebook or YouTube to another episode of Pencil Leadership. You guys are in for another great treat. We are super blessed for the guests that we get to have on the show. And today we have Jess Critchlow, excuse me. She is the chief of all things over at Light Up Work. And this is where she helps professionals finally reach their big career goals, do the work they love, and ultimately make money by making real change in their confidence and interpersonal skills. Now, she has over a decade of experience working with individuals and organizations, running training programs, coaching and consulting on workplace improvement initiatives across dozens of industries and countries. She's a TEDx speaker who is crazy about getting into super geeky conversations about confidence, learning, and business with anyone and everyone. Jess, welcome to the show today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me because I get to have a super geeky conversation with you
Yes,
about
absolutely.
business and
For
TEDx and
sure.
leadership and all the things. So I'm
Oh
excited.
yeah, I'm excited. I think this is another great topic that we haven't had yet. And so it's awesome to talk about like the
Oh,
TEDx and confidence and everything
yes,
that comes with
yes.
that. So I would love though, if you would just kind of start, and I do this with every guest, just kind of start, share your story if you would, or what part
Yeah.
you want to, of how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I am an ex corporate drone, and let me be clear. So I spent over a decade in corporate, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
self-employed because I hated my career. I'm self-employed for lots of reasons, but it wasn't because of that. Like I loved the people I got to see every day.
Hmm.
I liked going in and being part of a team. So that is what I did, and I probably about I'd say about 8 years ago now, I had a real sort of professional identity crisis of like,
Okay.
what am I really doing, and am I using my best skills, and I kept thinking confidence was this thing that would just happen as my career
Hmm.
unfolded, and it wasn't what I was seeing. And more than that, I was in a role where I was working with doing a lot of leadership coaching and training,
Okay.
and I was working with these people who'd been leaders for decades,
Yeah.
and they didn't have the confidence that I thought
Hmm.
would naturally come. So I was like, okay, oh no, what's happening here? Like,
Yeah.
where does this come? So anyway, so dove down the rabbit hole, as I'm sure you have done too, of
Yes.
professional development.
Yep.
Right, Chris? So
Yeah.
coaching, mentoring, seminars, training, workshops, podcasts, Buddhist retreat in the woods, like you name, you name it. And I probably did it to try to like unpick this, like what is my career supposed to be, and how do I get there, and how do I have the
Hmm.
confidence to do it? So dove down all those things. Um, and yeah, and it opened up a whole world of doing coaching and interpersonal skills training. And I did that in my corporate life. And then about 4 years ago, I formally started my business. I dabbled
Awesome.
for a few years before that, here and there,
Yeah.
and then I'd get burnout and go back and all the things. But yeah, so about 4 years ago, really focusing in on at the beginning of my business, working with leaders in small businesses on all the
Hmm.
basically the same thing I did in my corporate role, and doing it self-employed. And then about almost a year ago, I love working with the leaders that I've worked with and the small businesses I've got to work with. And there was still something missing. And the piece that I loved about my corporate life that I didn't get to do anymore was working with really high potential, fantastic individuals
Right.
who just didn't quite have like the confidence piece and the interpersonal skills piece. So they're a great
Right.
graphic designer, but when it came time to pitching an idea, they were
Yep.
like, I mean, do the,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So that was the piece I was missing. So I've added that into the
That's
work I
awesome.
do, and oh, it's just so much fun. Yes.
That's awesome. So, and your business is Light Up Work, correct?
Light up work. You got it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
what's that all entail?
Yeah. So it's interesting, by the way. When I started my business, I was living in England,
Oh,
and I
wow.
had to register the company before I could spend money as like a tax deductible
Huh,
spend.
okay, yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I know I love bringing like a lighter energy, like fun, um really to work, because there's
Mm,
this myth that we have that work, if something's important, it has to be boring and serious and like
Right.
And that's not what I've seen as
Right.
success. And
Mm.
that's not what I've experienced. So I was like, I know I want to do something to bring more fun and play and joy to
Yeah.
our work, because it can be those things.
Yep.
I don't know yet what that looks like, but light up work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
Awesome.
that's a business that doesn't exist yet in England. I can register that. Yeah. So that's where that
Awesome.
came from. And so yeah, at the moment, what that mostly is a lot of one-to-one work with leaders
Okay.
and those high potential people I talked about who are ready for the next step in their career. They just need a little bit of oomph to get them there.
Yeah.
And then it's working with some small businesses as well, still with interpersonal
Okay.
skills training, team building workshops, the in-person stuff that I don't get to do right now because as we're filming this, we're in the middle of the joy of
Yeah.
COVID-19. But
Right.
yeah, that again when life looks a little different.
Absolutely. That's cool. So, and I'm curious, how did you go about like creating the structure of light up work for these individuals? Is it kind of like a cookie cutter, but you can stray away a little bit, or how does it look?
Such a good question. Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is my 4th year now, and
Yeah.
it has shifted and changed and
Hmm.
quite a bit as I've learned what I enjoy doing and where I do my best work. Because,
Hmm.
and Chris, I'm sure you've experienced this. I'm sure. I think you're going to nod with me. Where
Yeah.
I like, I've got a worksheet and I write out my ideal client and I map out the thing and then I put it on my website and I think done. And then I do it and I'm like, oh, I don't really enjoy this. So
Right.
hang on. Now I gotta. So for me, it's been an iteration of like being strategic and intentional about it, but
Yeah.
then trying it on and like, no, I don't like that. And next and next. So at the moment, where the iteration it is at that's working really well is I have two main offerings. So one is
Cool.
purely one-to-one. I
Uh-huh.
spend a ton of time and energy and love, and that's more my higher priced
Yeah.
program, and that's a 3-month program of one-to-one, lots of love and attention, and really challenging practical accountability. I look at people's work. So if they need to go and pitch an idea either to a boss or an investor, I actually work with them on those projects. So that's
Okay.
the sort of higher
Cool.
priced one that I don't take on as many clients because it is so high touch.
Yeah.
And then the other work I do is called the Confidence Project.
Okay.
And that's tech. I call it, it's a program. So
Yeah.
there's a set 3 modules that people work through
Okay.
and they go and do that's like a self-study. And then each
Cool.
module has a coaching call with me.
That's
So you
awesome.
get both the set materials that I know works because I've been working with people on it for, over a decade.
Yeah.
And then we also get to go, like one of the things we do a lot in the third module is feedback. Like, how do you change your relationship to feedback? Love it, ask for it, give it without breaking out into hives. Um, and with one of my clients, the whole third coaching session was like, no to feedback. And I'm like, all right,
Oh,
let's dive in. So
yeah.
we use those calls for the specific
That's
challenge
cool.
that person is having.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's always neat to come into contact with other coaches, people doing things like this and
Yeah.
seeing their direction and what you said, where I do my best work. So where people really kind of lean
Yeah.
towards, because I mean that's where we do our best is in our strengths and
Hmm.
where we enjoy things. And so I
Hmm.
think that's really neat. Um, and so you said Light of Work's been in about 4 years officially,
Yes.
10 years in helping people just in
Yeah.
general
Yeah.
build. So when did the TEDx come into play with all this?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you about this
Yeah.
because I think everyone should do a TEDx. And I know you're like, everyone? Yes. No,
Ow. Yeah.
really, everyone. Because here's why is I made up. So
Mhm.
I knew that the city that's near me, which is Windsor,
Uh,
Canada, I knew they had a TEDx program.
Okay.
I knew they were looking for, like, applications were open because TEDx is by application. That's what
Okay.
people sometimes forget. Yes, keynote speakers are invited at times,
Right.
but the docket is by application.
Cool.
And I thought to myself, well, like, I don't know, like I would go and talk about work. Like no one wants
Right.
to hear about
Right.
work.
Right.
And I made up that I didn't have something interesting to share. And
Mm.
so that's step number one. Is anyone out there who's like, yeah, but my thing is like weight loss. Who wants to have another TEDx about weight loss? Yes.
Put it out there.
Your version of it has not been done yet.
Absolutely.
Your version of it has not been done. So that's one, is don't get in your, don't self-select out. So I had met a contact locally. He was also self-employed. And he's like, hey, I'm on the TEDx committee. Your energy is great. I really think you should apply. Like, the application ends on Friday. Our conversation was on Tuesday. He's like, I'd really like to see your name in the initial applicants. And I was like, okay. So I was like, yeah, whatever, sure. So here's the other thing that I'd say to anyone who's even somewhat thinking about doing a talk like that is, I genuinely had no clue what my talk would be. I didn't. I was like, okay, the application's due in 4 days. I had to fill in a huge online application that took me hours. And by then I was like, oh, I don't really want to do it anymore, but okay, I'm halfway through. So I did that. And then I had to submit a video of me, not of the talk, but almost talking about the talk. Like, what topic would I,
like high level?
Yes. And here's like my best tip that I would give to people. So TEDx's usually have a theme.
Okay.
You don't always know that when you're watching the video online, but it is a conference. So they'll have a theme. Gotcha. So the theme my year in the city I applied was systems.
Okay.
Here's my best advice is ignore the theme.
Okay.
Talk about what topic you would want to do, and then put the theme filter over top of that.
Cool.
So I didn't think, okay, what system could I talk about? I just went, I want to talk about emotions and authenticity at work and how powerful that can be for our success. And I'll just say system at the end, and I'll say, and it's about the system we work in. Nice. And I did. And they were like, yep, cool, brilliant. On to the next round of application. So that's sort of, I'll pause here and let you get a word.
No, I think
that's my first, the first phase is apply. You don't have to have your talk figured out. I honestly didn't have a clue what I was going to say about that topic. And I would say halfway in, I changed completely. Like, I threw out what I'd written. And, so you just throw it out there.
Yeah. I think that's huge, because people, a lot of times they let fear stop them. And it's come up so many conversations, like, people get scared because of the failure or rejection or whatever it is, and it stops them from their potential, what they could. I mean, if they would actually try, they could have got on stage, blew them away, and that, who knows, that changes the whole trajectory of their lives and everyone who heard it. And so, I think just taking that step and doing it.
Okay, we have to pause because you just said something brilliant.
Well, I gotta write that down. You said that.
Write down your own words, because it was really good. Which is, when people self-select out, right? So if I'm sitting there going, well, like, I'm a personal trainer, like, no one needs to hear about doing push-ups on a TEDx talk. That one person, even just one, that one person who would have heard your talk and had their complete health changed around.
Yeah.
You've now taken that from them. You've taken that opportunity away from them.
Yeah.
And that, if you think of it from that perspective, it's like, that's so unfair to that one, even one person who you could have changed their entire outlook on their health, their life, because health is life.
Yeah.
And now they don't have that.
And I
so
think
that's part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it goes to, so I previously was an athletic trainer before I started this venture. And so a lot of times I found myself thinking, well, I'm not going to say something about that to that person, because, like, in my head, like, it was knowledge. Like, I knew that I needed to drink enough water. It's like, so they already know. They're not going to want to listen to me.
Yeah.
But we forget that a lot of people don't have our position on things, our knowledge on things. And so they're sometimes in the dark. And so, that one person that you're telling about a push-up, they might have no idea that they should have done it a certain way or done that type. And so, I think that's brilliant on that.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? We so underestimate our own knowledge and skill base, especially, and this is the work I spend a bit of time on too with my clients, especially things that are easy to us, right? We just are like, well, I can't charge someone for that because it's easy.
Right.
It's easy for you. Exactly. Hence why you should build a business around it, right? Yes. Or a career around it, or whatever the thing is. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. So just take that first step and apply.
Yes, apply. It doesn't, even if you don't have a clue, even if you're like, but public speaking makes me throw up all over myself. That's okay. Just apply.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, it's just don't let the fear get in, because just tell the fear, hey, look, I can just like call in sick that day if I want.
Yeah.
Don't worry about getting up on stage. That's not where we're at. That's
We're
okay.
not there today.
I can flake out if I want. Like,
Right.
just let the fear know we're not there yet. I'm not going on stage. I'm just sending in an application. I can
Yeah.
do that. That's just
Yeah.
writing some words. So apply. And then when
Awesome.
so the next thing really is, and then, I mean, depending on the TEDx. So the one I was in had
Mhm.
3 different rounds you had to
Okay.
get through. And
Oh,
again, each round kept making me more anxious
I'm
because I was
sure.
like, I am very practiced at public speaking because of the
Yeah.
job that I had in corporate was very like
Gotcha.
company updates and that sort of thing. So it wasn't getting up on stage, it was getting up on stage as the expert in a topic I really cared about.
Yeah.
That really kept me up at night, because going up on stage in the past has been like,
Yeah.
hey, here's the company strategy on learning. I mean, I
Right.
cared about it, but it wasn't personal to me.
Right.
So anyways, so the anxiety was building, but that's okay. So getting through each round,
Yeah.
my number one tip on getting through each round
Uh-huh.
is just follow the instructions. I know, right? Like,
Easy
wow,
enough.
I just blew your mind.
Ooh.
Like, but
All
in
of
my
instructions.
TEDx, so there was, I think, about 100 people who got through the first round.
Wow.
And then of them, they had to do a 10-minute recorded, like
Mm,
basically a beta version of their talk. Like, it didn't
gotcha.
have to be perfect, but just an example of what the talk, like the arc would be. You had
Yeah.
to record it and send it in. Half the people didn't even do it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Which is
For
probably
lots of
normal, unfortunately.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yep, for
Yeah.
lots of
Things happen.
reasons,
Lives
right?
happens and
A lot of fear in there, a lot of
mhm.
procrastination, a lot of like suddenly like, oh, I did this on a whim. I don't just send it in. And
Yeah.
let me be clear. The one that I sent in, I recorded from an airport ducked behind a plant by the women's bathroom at an airport, because I'd
Perfect.
run out of time because of fear. And I had an hour left. I was bored. I had until 11 p.m. My flight boarded at 11. So I'm at 10 p.m. ducked behind a plant. You can hear flight announcements in the background. But I was like,
I'm
I
gonna do
have
it.
to, it's not going to be good, but it's going to be done. And that's
Yeah.
going to be enough.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Right. So that's the next thing, is just
Yeah.
keep following the process, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's not the perfect version, because mine was not, with
Right.
flights announced to like New York in the background, but just do it. So that's really the
Love it.
second piece on the application, is just keep following it through, even though it's not your best work.
Yeah.
Don't make your best work the goal. Make being done
Right.
the goal.
Yep.
Um, yeah. Does that
I love
like,
it. Yeah.
I mean, I know none of that's rocket science,
No,
but
but
yeah, does that
that's
hit
what it is.
some?
Like so simple. Like I think myself included, like TEDx talk. Holy cow! There's probably like all this form. And
Right,
it's
which
that
I've made
simple.
up
You
too.
just apply. Yeah, it's letting all that get in our head. Like, oh, it's gonna be so hard. Like you're gonna get weeded out at the beginning because you're not Tony
Mhm.
Robbins and
Yes,
like
exactly.
so.
Like, I'm not Oprah. Like, no
Yeah,
one's gonna want to
exactly.
listen to me.
Yeah. No, I think that should relieve a lot of people's stress about at least that part. It's just follow the instructions.
Follow the instructions. Yeah, and I will jump ahead for a second.
Yeah.
So when I met all the other speakers,
Mhm.
I had like a major imposter syndrome hangover. I was just like, I'm just gonna like, because I kept meeting people. They're like, oh yeah, I've got a show on HGTV, and I'm like,
That's cool though.
I've got some YouTube videos.
Yeah, exactly.
The next person was like, oh yeah, I run 3 businesses in Toronto, and I'm like, oh,
Nice.
neat.
Yeah.
So I had to really manage
Yeah.
it. Even once
That's a
I
big
got
one.
through,
Mhm.
you still have to keep managing that fear and
Yeah.
managing the gremlins and all that. So, anyways, imposter syndrome. I even teach on this stuff and it doesn't go away.
I know. Yeah, I was gonna say we always have to deal with it, even if we're like teaching about it, teaching about mindset and stuff. And that imposter syndrome, I think, I mean, it just all ties to like kind of fear and like rejection and
Mhm.
things like because we look at other people and where they are, it's like, oh man, well they're so much better, but like they've done it a lot longer, like they put in a lot more
Mhm.
time. Like I'm just starting out, and it's like, oh well, you sometimes forget the work and the time it takes to get to
Mhm.
certain levels. So I think it's good to remember that and just be
Oh, yeah.
thankful you're in the position like you're in.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I know it's the bumper sticker of like, don't compare your middle to someone else's end,
Yeah.
but whew, that's a good one to put into practice. That's a game
Yes.
changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in terms of preparing, I guess what
Yeah.
I wanted to throw out there for you and I to talk about is here's the thing. I am I don't really do my best work when I'm preparing crazy amounts in advance.
Mm.
And I know people hear that and they're like, that sounds like an excuse to be a slacker. It's truly not. I love a deadline.
Yeah.
That's just how I work best. And I used to, for years, I beat myself up about it, right? I was like,
Mm.
why can't I just do it the week ahead? Like, why am I always last minute? And then it took getting like that rabbit hole of professional development to
Yep.
realize, that's just when I do my best work. When I do
Yeah.
things weeks in advance, I go to present it and I'm like, I mean, it's all right, but it's not,
Yeah.
and just accepting me. And this is how I work. So
Yes.
most of the advice out there is going to tell you like finish the talk. And this was the advice I got as well. And it is good advice. It's like finish your talk as soon as you can and
Okay.
then practice it and practice it and practice it and
Mm.
do it in front of
Right.
live audiences, like friends and family,
Yeah.
but keep practicing it, keep getting feedback. And that
Yep.
is amazing advice.
Okay.
And the caveat or the sort of addendum I'll add on to that is know yourself, know how
Yes.
you work. So for me, I did practice it a lot
Yeah.
and I was open to it changing. I changed
Mm. Yep.
something in my talk midnight before, the day before, right? And that's okay. Like
Yeah.
I could, like, for me to just do something 2 months in advance and then just stick to that no matter what would
Oh,
have been a
right.
huge mistake
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me.
No, I
Whereas
agree.
the way
Yeah.
I did it, I did keep practicing it, but I did iterations and I kept shifting it and changing it and editing it. And I never, again, for me, I didn't memorize the words, I memorized the arc. So the
Mm.
day I did it, it was still slightly different
A little
than
different.
my
Yeah.
practice.
I like it.
That works for me. That's what
Right.
made me feel comfortable and happy and energetic on stage. So that's the piece too, is as you're practicing, know how you work, know
Yeah.
how you do your best work and do that regardless of what the books and the podcasts
Right.
and what I say.
Yeah.
Do your best version of feeling like what will make you go up and feel in the moment, practiced, confident.
Mm.
What is that thing? So that's what I
Absolutely.
would say as you're prepping is
For sure.
find your best way.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think like practicing, yeah, because I'm a planner, so I do things ahead
Right.
and everything. But like, yeah, I would still at least like be practicing and tweaking as I go. Like get the main part done so you have the bulk of it,
Yes.
but then you can start to trim away, add to, and
Mm-hmm.
whereas my wife, she's really good at the deadline. Like she'll have a deadline
Right.
and she'll work just kind of like what you were saying you do. And so just two different people, two different types of ways to do it. And so,
Exactly.
but yeah,
Yeah.
know yourself. I like that one. Know how
Yeah.
you work, how you present,
Yeah.
and what makes you energized. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And yeah, it's hard. By the way, I'm making it sound simple. It is hard sometimes to figure out how you work
Yeah,
best
absolutely.
because it does take just, for me, it took messing up and going,
Yep.
oh, that's not how I work best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So simple, not easy. Maybe.
Right. So you got through the rounds.
Yes.
Um, I guess I don't. How big was the conference you went? How many people were there that you were talking in front of?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't huge. This wasn't like TEDx New York City, right?
Right.
So it was at the local what's the theater called? Chrysler Theater. So
Oh,
it's a
nice.
pretty big
Yeah.
theater. And it was so beautiful too. So
I
that
bet.
ironically gave me imposter syndrome at the dress rehearsal the day before. I had to
Oh,
go up
okay.
on stage in this like stunning Art Deco theater. And I'm like, are we sure?
Wow.
Are we
Yeah,
sure you
that's
want me on the
cool. That's so
lineup?
cool.
But yeah, so it wasn't thousands of people
But
by any
still,
stretch.
yeah.
But
And are
it
these
was
online?
lovely. Yeah, so they're
Cool.
online. So that's another thing. Okay, so
Yeah,
two things that I learned that I wanted to share in case it's useful for you and your audience. So
for
one
sure.
is the most nerve-wracking part is when the person ahead of you is going and you know you're next in the lineup.
Yep.
I was fine. I really, because again, I am okay public speaking. So I was
Yeah.
fine the day. I was like chatting with people, chatting with the other presenters. And then the woman who went before me was up and I'm like,
I'm next.
oh, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna be sick all over my shoes. That's awkward. So here's the thing though.
That's awesome.
So what I did is I paced because I had
Mm.
nerves. I couldn't just sit still. So I paced backstage quietly, by the way. Don't like do
Right.
footsteps in the middle of
Yeah.
someone else's TEDx talk. And I just kept repeating to myself, you're nervous because you're about to be brave. You're nervous because you're about to be brave. Because here's what we forget.
Yep.
The physiological response to excitement and nervous are the same. The difference is what your brain makes up about it.
Yep.
Right. So you see Olympians. This is a perfect example. You see Olympians. They're about to like ski down this ridiculous mountain on front of the world's cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're top athlete in the world. And the presenter's like, are you nervous? And they're like, no, I'm excited. I'm like, because it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's sweaty palms. It's pit in your stomach, blood rushing to your head, like tons of adrenaline. You're shaking. That's either excitement or nerves, depending on how your brain interprets it. So that was a big thing for me is I was like, I'm about to be brave. I'm about to be brave. I'm about to be brave. I'm excited because I'm about to be brave. I'm excited, that's just trying to like train my brain into seeing it that way, which did help. Yeah. And then you do the talk and you hope you don't throw up on anyone, which I didn't. And I messed up, by the way. Like I shared the video, obviously, because I was like, I did TEDx and I'm so proud. And people were like, wow, it was really great. And it was like, you're so confident. I forgot 3 different parts that I was supposed to talk about. I left out a whole section, but no one knows that.
Yeah.
So as you're up on that stage, just roll with it. Just roll with it. Because no one knows.
Would the producers even know? Or they just kind of.
No, I mean, they saw me in the dress rehearsal, but they didn't memorize all 15 people's talks.
Right. Well, that's good. So how long did you have on stage to talk?
Well, you have up to 20 minutes, but they really encourage you as best you can to try to stay under 15.
Okay.
Purely because it's just a click thing, right? People are more likely to click on it if it's less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So mine came in at, I think, 13 or 14.
Okay.
So it's kind of a good thing I forgot a bunch of parts. So as you're out there, just like no one has the script. This is not Romeo and Juliet. No one has read the script. Just make it happen. And then the big thing too is share the link afterwards. Like that's something people forget. It's one thing to have talked live in front of these wonderful people and have made an impact on them. And your talk goes on the TED site and it gets shared on YouTube and all of that. And you still have to share it.
Yeah.
Share it. Ask other people to share it. Yeah, you can put it on websites. It's both on TED, the TED.com, and it's on YouTube. YouTube first, because TED has to, they just want to fact check basically. Like they don't want you, even though it's TEDx, they still don't want you blathering a bunch of like lies is not really what they stand for. Right. So it takes a little bit longer to go up on their site, but and you can embed it, you can share it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And just share it, because that to me was just as nerve-wracking as doing the talk. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Because now you're going to get more feedback from people listening to it again.
Oh my gosh. And don't read the comments. They are moderated, so they'll get deleted. But I, of course, read the comments on YouTube, which is moderated much slowly. And I responded to someone, which I shouldn't have done. I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Someone wrote, another useless female perspective on work. And I was like, and then of course instead of that's their stuff and that's their page, I wrote back, another misogynist opinion. Great. And I'm like, why did I do what's the point of that? Anyways, so I haven't read the comments since, and that was over a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah, a year ago. Yeah. Cool. So anyways.
So I'm sure that you got the applause after you spoke. How did that, what was that like?
Oh yeah, that was weird. Because again, normally when I talk on stage, I'm doing like a training workshop.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? People are like, hooray, well done. Thank you for teaching us about presentation. So it was like, I didn't know where to look. I was like, Thank you. But it felt good. It felt good afterwards, especially once I was in my car and I was driving away. I was like, oh, that was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. It kind of, I wonder, so I've ran some marathons and my first one was Chicago. And it's like you put this time in, you're working towards it, like you're nervous still because it's, I mean, it's 26.2 miles. That's my
Yes.
farthest, but it's like you get there and I still remember, and I still sometimes want to do races like when you get to the end, like you see the finish line, like the emotions, like from everything, like you start kind of get teary eyed and like you feel them coming, and it's like, holy cow, like one, blessed to be able to do this and be able to finish, but like, man, it's like all the work you put in and it's come to fruition. So like, did you get kind of any of those emotions?
Yeah, I got my version of that is like the urge to like hysterically laugh. Like, you know, the laugh you do when you're in a library and you're not supposed to laugh, and then it
Right.
makes you want to laugh that much louder.
Yeah.
That's what I got. I was like, don't burst into like hysterical laughter on stage. Just
That's
wait.
awesome.
Like, wait
Yeah.
till your mic is off at least.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there was something just really cathartic and energizing and exhausting. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. It's so cool to see
yeah.
people like tackle that fear. Like working with people, like they have passions, they're just so scared to start them, but like being able to see them go from that to like actually
Mm,
starting towards that and then
mhm.
having that confidence, having that excitement from it's like so fulfilling, so cool to see that from people.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to mention something about
Yeah,
fear
yeah,
because I
absolutely.
know you and I think are going to agree on this one. In work, I think very rarely does fear show up as fear.
Mm,
So, and I've worked with obviously because I've worked at large companies and then in my self-employed work, I worked with a lot of people. And I don't think I've ever heard someone say, I don't want to present this idea because I'm scared.
right.
Usually, what it is I'm not ready.
Yep.
I need to do more training first. I need to perfect it first. I need to run it by more feedback first. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not really the person to do it. You know, we can go on, but I think that's something really important as you and I talk about fear. I guarantee you there's someone who's going to either watch this live or watch the replay and say, oh, but I'm not scared to talk on stage. It's like,
Right. Then why don't you do it?
that's fine. Then
Yeah,
what are you?
yeah,
Because you're going to say, well, I'm a perfectionist, or, well, I need to get more training first, or, well, I need to start on a smaller stage first, or
yeah,
that's all fear. You don't have to call it fear. I don't need to argue with you about that. That's
right.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Or like I hear a lot like as soon as, oh yeah,
oh,
I'm
that's
gonna
the
do
big
it
one.
as soon as I get more training or as soon as I speak
Hmm.
to smaller crowds first. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
as soon as I get the big one, and my
yeah,
brain tries to trap me in this, as soon as I have a bigger following, as soon as I
right.
have a bigger audience, as
Yeah.
soon as I have more email subscribers, as soon as I have, that's
Yep.
all. That's
Yep.
all garbage.
No, I agree with you for sure. Yeah. Very
Right?
rarely. Yeah. I'm just scared. I'm just scared. No,
Yeah, not
it's
really.
hidden with other words, so it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, we throw a different, like a more acceptable filter over the top, but
Yes.
that's what it is.
Yeah. So I like that. So if you could give someone three tips, words, something to help them start building their confidence and getting through that fear,
Hmm.
what would you leave them with?
Oh my gosh, only three? I can't do
I know it's hard.
72. Three. Okay. Okay. All right. I'll boil some things down. Okay. um, okay. Okay. One.
Yeah. I know, put you on the spot. Sorry.
No, and I love it. No, don't worry. That wasn't my internet frozen. That was my like thinking frozen face. One is I want you to be very careful with how you define confidence.
Mm,
We often think confidence is being totally cool, totally collected, no physiological anything going on, no sweaty palms, no rushing blood, no
right.
just zen. That's not confidence. That's complacency. And I love complacency. And I build it into my business specifically because it feels good and
Yeah.
chill and relaxed. Just be careful that you're not confusing that with confidence. Confidence is sweaty palms and feeling like you're going to throw up and all of that and still doing it. That's what confidence is. So
Yep.
just be very careful you're not going, well, I'm not like my I'm really nervous and therefore I'm not confident. Nope,
Right.
that's just false.
Yeah.
Just
That's a good one.
scratch that one out. So that's one, is be mindful of how you're defining it. Two is make fear your friend,
Mm.
because your fear is so obsessively in love with you and just wants you to be safe and cozy and in a onesie with a hot chocolate and enjoying things. Fear loves you. So you don't have to make it the enemy. You don't have to get frustrated. Just don't let it pick what you're going to do. Like
Yes.
and whenever for me, fear often shows up as like the voice of, oh, you're a fraud.
Mm.
That's useful information for me because I'm not a fraud, but
Right.
there's something there that I need to pay attention to. So I'm like, okay, what's coming up right now? And it's either because I'm about to do something brave,
Mm-hmm.
or it's because I'm doing something that is not in my integrity. So am I writing an email in my tone of voice or in some famous person's tone of voice that I'm trying to copy?
Gotcha.
Right? Am I saying it the way I believe it, or am I trying to impersonate someone who is already has this figured out? So it's either you're about to be brave or you're doing it in a way that doesn't actually align with you.
Yeah.
Still
That's good.
useful information. So
Absolutely.
that's two. Be friends with fear because it's got your back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just it just is a bit annoying. So, so
For sure.
that's two. And then I guess the third one I'd say is change your relationship to feedback, advice, people's opinion.
Mm.
It is incredibly useful data.
Yeah.
It's incredibly useful data. And it is not objective truth.
Mm.
Right. So when I get told, oh, you're a little bit too casual of a presenter,
Huh.
that's useful data for me to know that that person's perspective of a presenter is very formal and stoic
Gotcha.
and,
Yeah.
calm and low
Yeah.
energy. It doesn't mean I need to necessarily change anything because it's not objective truth about me. It's a truth about what their belief, opinion, perspective is. So just get a little window of light between when what I often see is people say, well, I got feedback that my presentation is too long. No, it's not. That person's perspective is your presentation is too long. Are they a useful stakeholder? Are they the people you're trying to reach? Um, are they someone who has seen other presentations and so understands this enough that you want to take that data and incorporate it?
Right.
But it's not objective truth. It's not like just tease those two apart a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think
That's
those are
what I
great.
would say. Hope that's
No, yeah, I
my
think it's
my
wonderful.
riffing on it is useful.
Be careful how you define confidence, and don't
Mm-hmm.
confuse with complacency. Make for your friend. Don't let it choose your paths and directions for you,
Mm-hmm.
and then change your relationship to feedback because it's not objective truth. I like those. I think those are
Oh, Chris, you're
three
good at
wonderful.
summarizing my things. And I'm just like, I love just talking. I love spending 10 minutes to take what should have taken 30 seconds. So maybe you and I should team up more and you can
Yeah,
you can
I
like
love it. I love
edit me down.
it. Right.
I love it.
Awesome. Um, so are you planning on going for the big one ever? Do you apply for the big TED Talks, or how does that, or do you only
I actually
invite it?
I think based on what I spoke to someone who's on the TED committee here, you can apply, but it is often by invite only.
Yeah,
The main TED is
I
invite
gotcha.
only. You can apply and they might then invite you, but yeah, it's more of like a keynote
Cool.
speaker type of situation.
Gotcha.
Um, but
What
I
about
love
more TEDx
speaking.
talk?
Yeah, I'd love to. That's one thing that I forgot to mention that I should have.
No, go ahead.
We'll add it in.
Yeah.
We'll edit it back in. Is TEDx is community run, so please don't think you can only apply to your local community. Like our TEDx had speakers from all over our province, like 5-6 hour drive away.
Oh, wow.
So you can just find other TEDx's and apply. They'll run at different times. Like I don't want you to think, oh, the TEDx in my local city runs in January, so I got to wait and do it then.
Oh, I gotcha.
There might be one the next town over who's taking applications right now. So know that as well, is it is community run. So you can find the different one.
Cool.
Don't go down the rabbit hole of the internet, but spend half an hour, Google your local towns.
Yeah.
Like I'm not suggesting you fly to Shanghai for one necessarily, but even locally, just
Yeah.
Google them. You'll find the info. It'll be top of the list And there you go. Like, it doesn't have to be just one spot. You can apply to all sorts of different ones.
Perfect. No, that's a great tidbit for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on today and getting able to talk about TEDx talks, confidence, and just
Yeah.
overcoming that and going after them. It's a great topic, and I think so many more people have the ability to do that, and just kind of need a little push. And so I hope they are listening to this and can get that push from it. So, but I like to ask one question before we go. The fifth trait of pencil leadership is that we're made with a purpose, and that's to leave a positive mark on the world. So when your time here is said and done, what do you hope is your positive mark that people see?
Oh, such a good question. You know what? I think for me, it really is around work. Our paid work
Mm,
can be joyful and fun, and we can show up as ourselves, and that can be to our benefit.
yeah,
Like success in work because of those things rather than in spite of those things. That's what the impact that I hope that I have before all is said and done.
I love it. Yeah, I think if we had more joy in the things we were doing, I think the world would be a lot better place because people would be happy.
Yeah, and the last thing I will add before
Yeah.
I let you go back to your world, letting me like just super geek out with you on all of this for an hour. I love it. My spouse is probably like, oh, thank God she's not talking at me about it now. We make up a lot that we only get to be joyful in work if we're doing our passion.
Mm,
There's some problems with that. One is maybe your passion should just be your passion. Like if you enjoy gardening, just have a nice garden. You don't necessarily have to monetize it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying just be mindful that you don't have to turn your passion into a business. Sometimes you can just love doing yoga.
yeah.
You can just love gardening. You can love taking care of your dog. You can love those things. They don't necessarily have to be how you pay your bills.
Yeah.
And don't make that like we were saying before, right? I'll be happy in work when.
Right.
You don't have to wait. And I'm not saying there's not toxic work environments and we need to be very, I'm not saying your boss is a terrible human being and just go be happy. There are obviously external things in the way for sure. It's just, don't make it this goal in the future that you might maybe be able to not hate your job and your work at some point. There
Right.
are things to be like, you get to be joyful now, even if the job isn't like 100% your strengths and your passions. We get to build some of that enjoyment and joy in right now.
Yeah. And that's just like, yeah, leaving the positive mark, like whatever we're at, whatever we're doing, we can do that, but we have to have
Mm,
the inner being, the integrity, the character, the mindset to be able to do that no matter where we're at. And so I think
yeah.
that's a huge reminder, um, to me and hopefully the audience as well. And so, well, Jess, I appreciate you being on Pencil Leadership today. Is there, or where is there a good place that people can connect with you and what you do?
Yeah, so I am Light Up Work on all the places. So www.lightupwork.com, Light Up Work on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me there. I do have a few things on my website that might be of use if people are sort of struggling with this fear confidence thing in their career. Head over there. I've got some stuff you can have a play with, but that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, again, hey, we appreciate you so much sharing and giving us all this knowledge today. So thank you.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much.
No problem. All right, guys. Yeah, make sure you go check out Jess everywhere that she's located. Check out her site. Thank you again for tuning in live. If you're watching this, go to wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe to Pencil Leadership, leave a review, share it with somebody else, help make a difference in their lives as well. And we look forward to the next episode with you guys.